Welcome to Christ Truth Reveal. The little book is open. That is the Unleavened Bible. And this is episode 43. The title that I chose for today is The Lions, White Tigers 2, Gate 8821, episode day. And this is a spirituality, philosophy, and religion podcast. And I chose that title just to it's sort of like a play on today is supposed to be Lionsgate Day, which is, some people say it's a day where there's portals opening, outside of us or, in the physically or something like that. And another one said that it's a day of special energy to manifest things in our lives and stuff. And so I just kind of decided, it's called Lionsgate, so I wanted to play off of that with the lions, because this lion's gate is at the forehead of my head, and it's open all the time. And it's not just chakra, lions. Right? Yes, it's the third-eyed chakra. That is the portal. The only portal that even matters if you aren't experiencing that portal, your third eye, to find the kingdom within yourself. And this is based on the Bible, so that's why we talk about the kingdom and the Bible and the way it's talked about. But it is to interpret the parable of it. So anyway, and then of course Celeste is the white tiger, and his portal's open too all the time. So it's just kind of fun.
I'd like to claim that.
Yeah, I know. Yes,
I want to claim it. I feel like I I don't want to say regress, but I cycle back towards, kind of more of a worldly, get caught up in all the worldly affairs, and just probably more just because of my life season.
Oh yeah, yes.
But I see God in all of it. But it's been a bit challenging, and I do often comment on God's sense of humor, or God's wanting me to render more oil, or I don't know really how to say it. It's just it seems like, especially career wise, right?
Yes.
That we're for men, work is kind of where we are going to struggle.
Oh,
and
yes.
For me, it's been especially that way. Just, but yeah, provision comes, and then just got to kind of not be overly invested in the outcome and rolling with the punches, so to speak.
Yes, and see, you can claim that because that it is open all the time, because it's what's actually creating all of this, and it's an opportunity to bring the three parts together, right? As you're saying, to learn not to be overly invested, to just let things be, and not judge anything, of course, but the portal is always open. And it's got our life plan written in it, which is what you're doing. And then so all you have to do is just say, okay, I know that this is from God, know. And then that thing, though, of the human thing comes in and says, but God doesn't do those things to us.
I have a better plan than God's for this person.
God wouldn't make me do that. Well, God is love, but it's because God loves us that these things happen. It really is. It really is. I mean, I'm a human. I still have human stuff, but I've been able to have my retraining and everything to where I'm able to laugh at it, and with it, and just when I get frustrated or whatever, I just laugh with myself, right?
Yeah, yeah. And I get there in moments. I mean,
yeah,
it was a little easier earlier, and now I'm kind of cycling back to stressing way too much about stuff. And
yeah,
I think because there's some deadlines looming that I need to have stuff figured out in the next 8 days.
exactly. Yeah.
So,
And that you do have to be involved in that. You have to be
yeah,
involved in it. It's not just going to create itself. We have to co-create,
exactly.
we
Yeah,
have
I feel like that's one of the things that people try to cite about the Bible is that God helps those who help themselves. Well, that's not in the Bible, but it's pretty true.
no, but it is. And two, it is the divine dichotomy thing again, too, is that it's going to happen no matter what, because that's the way it was created.
Yeah.
And when it was created, it was finished.
Written in the book of
So
life.
exactly. So it's already done. But yeah, then we've got the dichotomy of that, the experience of my part, which really I don't have any part other than just to witness, but I do have to still make those choices, right? I've got to be in the divine flow, though, to have the choice flow divinely instead of battling with it, right?
Yeah.
But you got to battle with it, or you can't retrain.
Right.
How do you retrain
No,
yourself if you're not
that's a
there?
good thing to point out for sure. And again, I'll question things like just the health thing. So I was down on my annual SoCal Surfari, and I'm very intentional about trying different surf breaks every time I go
Yeah.
down there. And ended up the last one was Newport Beach, the Wedge, and it's a super popular break, and there's a lot of people, and you know pretty intense novelty wave, and I, I got pushed down pretty hard at one point, and
Oh,
I don't know if that's when my ear got infected because I went so deep or what happened, but I ended up coming away with swimmer's ear, and that's one of those things where it's like, why this, why now?
right. Yeah.
I'll question like what's the purpose of this in my life? This is not helpful.
Yeah, because it takes
keeping me
away.
out of the water is the last thing that I need,
Exactly.
right? I
Yeah.
need to be in God's flow and God's energy as
Yeah.
much as possible.
Yeah. And so that
That's a bit of a dichotomy as well, right?
takes away the high that you get when you surf. Yeah. Come out and it kind of like stifles it a little bit.
But anyway, so it just cyclical, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. So
the retraining. The retraining is a
and the more
constant thing.
Yeah, and the more the desire to be, to be in the higher love and the higher consciousness and everything, the harder the retraining can be, depending on where you're coming from, because it takes lifetimes, so to speak, to get to where you are. And so it's not going to be easy. It can be instantaneous, but that's not how it works. It's olives got to be beaten, like you said, and it's not fun. It's not fun, but when you look back, that everything always works out, right?
Mm-hmm.
It always does. It's not easy, but it works out. And when it's done, it's kind of like when a woman gives birth, it's like hell on earth. And then the next day, it's like, I want to have another one, right? That's kind of like that blessing,
It reminds me of a story I shared yesterday. I was helping facilitate a recovery meeting, and I often share about an experience I had it was still early recovery for me, where I was really questioning the why of this season of like having, at that point, everything had to change because what I was doing wasn't working, right? I was really kind of running myself aground, and
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I did need to kind of reboot life and start from scratch and retrain myself. And so I was questioning the need for all that. And what ended up happening was I was really kind of nutted up about, oh, why me? Why do I have to go through this? Why? And for whatever reason, I like picking up things and reading them. And I just picked up something, and it was about the industrial age and how that came to be. And I guess one of the primary drivers of that was when farmers um, finally figured out that crop rotation was important, that you needed ground to lie fallow. You couldn't just keep growing in the
Right.
same spot all the time. And so, you had to let part of your parcel, they're divided into fourths, right? And they would have 1/3 of it or 1/4 of it just lie fallow. Some would do thirds, whatever it was, but right, they would have a parcel that would just lie fallow. And so I use that analogy for myself, right? That I needed to do this season of, just allowing the soil to be tilled and for the nutrients to come back out, for that hard work of, kind of tearing it up from the ground up, right?
Yeah. Yes.
That's another recovery saying, is torn up from the ground up, right? But
Yeah.
it was intentional. It had to happen.
Yep.
And when I shared
Yes.
that yesterday, a few people were just like, wow, that is exactly what I needed to hear today.
Wow. That's
And
so
so,
awesome.
yeah, it's always, to me, that's a sign, right? When something like that happens, it's like, okay, God uses all of it, and it's not wasted at all, right? That time here I am talking about it, still 15 years later, and it's paying dividends for others, that was the whole point of it.
Yeah. And there's also that other thing connected to biblical stuff that, people say in religion and stuff of you never get more than you can handle. Well, you're the one that can handle that, and then you share it with those people. So, you're the vessel, right? And, at the time you don't like handling it, but look at that. Look at what just came out of it. Even if you just touched one person's life, that's huge. That's really huge to share like that.
It was a beautiful moment. And just, it's something a lot of people already know, right? They know that story. They understand, how the Dust Bowls were created in the Midwest, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And so, right, we don't do that. And we still do it, actually. But
yeah,
driving on I-5 last week, seeing the Dust Bowls we're creating out there, it's crazy. But yeah, those who don't learn from history are bound to repeat it. So
I think that's even biblical, to turn every 7 year on the seventh year.
The year
and that's kind of like, the creation of the earth, 6 days on and 1 day off,
to rest. Yeah.
You got to rotate your crops, because that's why we don't have selenium in our food anymore. That's why we don't have most nutrients in our food, because they don't rotate the crops and let that sit. They've got to grow on it so they can keep making that money.
Yeah. Corporate farming.
Yep. And then it's like dead food, it's nothing.
Yeah. It's not nutrition. No nutritional value.
So that's a really great analogy that actually is very true. And then to put it together in life experience, that's awesome. For people on the board with the Podbean app, you're probably going to get pop-ups that ask you to follow or to give gifts. That's not from us. That's a Podbean automatic thing. We don't take gifts. This is free information. We were blessed with the understanding of it, and so we give it freely. And all we say is, go check it out for yourself. Go within and find the kingdom. And one gift you can give, if anybody on the board, you can call in, you can say hi, you can join the conversation if you want. That's a gift we take. So anyway, we don't take monetary gifts. This is not a money ministry. It's not a ministry. It's just sharing the good news that we've come to understand and have been shown.
Yeah, and the topic being of this 8-8 being significant in terms of a portal opening. That's kind of where we're taking this. We're just talking about like where are you headed? Where are you going? What's ahead of you that you're recognizing is God's plan for your life?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just kind of like, and I'm not going to say that, I'm not going to disregard that maybe today does have special energy. I know there's a special energy on the planet right now. I know the sun has something really amazing going on because you can't even look at it. We were looking at the sunset yesterday, and I couldn't even look at it. It was just too bright. And they're cutting people off from talking about that on certain platforms. They don't want people talking about it. It's really strange.
Really?
Yes. So, but anyway, to be looking outside of self, like religion is waiting for Jesus to come back, but Jesus said when he goes to his Father as a symbol of Christ consciousness, when I go to my Father, I'll send the Comforter. Well, Christ consciousness came out of me and brought the Comforter back to me, and I am comforted in life, as we're discussing, that no matter what happens in life, it's joyful because I understand that it's God's life, that it's beautiful. And so anyway, looking for a portal. Today, there's portals open, somebody's saying, or there's an energy for us to manifest, I guess to manifest something different other than what you like. But it's already done. Everything's planned. So there's nothing to really do in that way. That's ego thinking that we are the power, and we aren't. The only power we have is to go along kicking and screaming or go along gracefully, but we do co-create. We do co-create. We will come up with the ideas that take us to our next step. And when we don't judge those next steps and stuff, then they're always perfect and wonderful. Or we can say that we don't like them, as we're talking about at the beginning of this, that, it doesn't feel perfect, so it's perfect imperfection.
Right.
But the whole meaning of life is about ascending the soul, about the soul gaining energy so that it can ascend like Jesus ascended. It can ascend in a body with a brain and a heart, so it can become an experience of magnificence that God is. And that's God experiencing that magnificence because, as Jesus showed us, that God was him.
Magnifying the one I sent.
Magnificence is magnifying the one I sent. Yes. so beautiful. And judging the world as being bad and wanting, like this one person was saying, portals are opening there, in your living room or whatever, so you can shift into the fifth dimension, and then you can have a better experience for yourself so you can change the world or something like that. And that's not how it works. The world may go on as it is forever, and then we're just here for up to 100 years, or we can ascend. And the portal is right inside yourself. All you have to do is close your eyes. You don't have to close your eyes, but at first I say close your eyes. And as it says in the Psalms in the Bible, as David said, I meditate in the morning. And as I look up, he was talking about just roll your eyes up. That's how you connect with God, which is within yourself, connected to you within yourself. And that changes your world. It does change the world, but it changes your world. The world looks completely different to me for the last 35 years or 34 years because of that understanding. It's been a whole different world. Nothing's changed in the world. Right. It's just that now I love it. I get it.
you have a Christ-centered perspective.
Yes, and understanding that it's Christ that's creating it all,
Yeah,
that
exactly.
it's being created by God through Christ.
Yeah, I think one of the things that's shifted for me, you're going to laugh at this, but, when I became, and I've got my air quotes, going here, born again Christian, I stopped reading horoscopes.
Yeah, yeah.
And only recently have I peek at them every once in a while.
Yeah.
Because I used to do it every day. I mean, I was really into it for a long time.
Uh-huh.
And moved away from it, and now coming back to it. And it was funny, I don't know if it was today or yesterday, but it said something about, stay away from new partnerships or joint ventures. But, right, there is, your own ideas are good enough, right? And so, interesting. I just thought that was funny because I was talking to a neighbor. It's actually my neighbor's son-in-law, but really good guy. We went to the same college and same degree. And, I just, looking at him, I get to kind of see myself, 20 years back, right? Whatever.
Yeah.
He's a new dad, and, he's got a beautiful bride and a beautiful new baby. It was actually like a meet the baby kind of celebration for some of the neighbors to meet their new grandkid. But anyway, so he and I were talking, and he's got an idea for a business. And I'm like, man, I'd love to help you because, I love helping startups and helping new founders. And so it was interesting. Then the next, this morning I read this horoscope that says, stay away from that,
And so, if it resonated, yeah. But that also goes with that other message for you a while back. That's kind of what it was saying, your own thing.
Yeah.
You've got something in you that I believe is coming. I thought it would be sooner, but still,
God's perfect timing.
Exactly. And
even
it's
in
not
its
like
imperfection of his perfect timing.
And the only way that it hurts
my
is
perceived imperfection.
Yeah, and that's the only way it hurts is by that perceived imperfection and the
judgment,
the time of it, the timing, waiting, patience.
Yeah,
but that's cool. That's actually a really cool horoscope.
Yeah. Well, I got a lot of confirmation this past week, just with career stuff and just feeling like I am on the right track again. The provision's coming. Nice to have that burden lifted, the uncertainty of financial insecurity is the term that often used, but right. To have that be removed is a true blessing, because
exactly. Yes.
all the provision was guaranteed at the beginning from the start.
Exactly. Yes. And it's all from abundance in the first place. It's wonderful.
Like manna falling from heaven. It just opened up for me. And so I think I'll just tell you what that means. Because when I finally met the principal, right, I did a interview. It was a Zoom interview and, met everybody and obviously was made the offer, but met the principal face to face recently. And when I said, it's great to meet you, I know we're not going to be working together very long, but, I'm so happy to be here. And she said, we're going to find a way to make that we're going to find a way to keep you here. So that was really cool.
Wow. Yeah.
For her to say that. And she was wearing a cross and she did go to a Christian university just like I did. So,
wow.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
It is very cool. Yeah. So
she was saying things that really resonated, like, just showing her love, expressing her love for this community, right? You're like the mayor, right? When you're a principal, right? You've got your own little fiefdom, and you get to call the shots and build your team and she wants people to feel loved. That's the main thing,
Yes.
And I know that's part of her Christian values, and it's beautiful to me that the
That's hard to find.
public school principal is out there talking about it.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That's
the
rare.
fragrance, she even used that term. I want people to.
Oh, wow. See, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's cool. Really cool.
You just write it.
Yep.
And talking about the tarot, I mean, not tarot, but the horoscope.
Yep.
In the Bible, in the Old Testament, there's a story of somebody important. I can't remember where it was or whatever, but I remember when I read the Bible 30 some years ago, a prominent person in that part of the Bible went to a psychic. Actually went to a psychic and asked a psychic for guidance. It was, I can't remember the whole story of it. I remember it being a cool story, just because I wasn't into that kind of thing at the time. And
right.
It just kind of made me think about, wow,
Yeah.
That's
I know it's a very controversial concept, but we often talk about it, like, right? In the beginning, all things were created. And then, all things were created of God, by God, and for God, right?
Yes.
So it means everything. All means everything.
And all things work together for those that love God
and according to his purpose.
According to their purpose. And that's all things. Yeah. So horoscope is all things. And they work for the good of those that love God, and you love God. So all things. And then and then people for some reason take the Bible and then they say, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do this, even though they believe that they gave their lives to Jesus, so they're saved and going to heaven after they die. But yet you can't do any of that, right? So it's just kind of like backward. And I do pick on.
That's their perfect imperfection, right?
Exactly, and that's exactly what
they're going to get another crack at it. It's not one and done.
It's just calling a spade a spade. It's not saying you're right or wrong, because it's not right or wrong. It's perfect, because it was the Bible and religion that brought me to where I am today. So I'm not putting it down in a bad way, but I do pick on it sometimes, and I do it deliberately, but just to kind of maybe
stir the pot.
Yeah, stir the pot for the food for thought. Yes, exactly. There you go. Because there is nothing right or wrong. Jesus said, don't judge. There's nothing right or wrong. Everything that happens in this world, this matrix, this illusion, is all just temporary. It's all temporary. When a soul gets enough beating of olives and stands on the mountain of olives, of beaten olives, to fill their lamp and ascend like Jesus did, then they're out of here. And then there's young souls that are going to do the same thing. And that's why this world and this physical existence that the ego thinks is bad or evil, but then there's people that love doing those bad and evil things, and they don't see it as bad and evil. All things work together for those that love God, and everybody really loves God. They just don't all know it. And as Celeste just said in Revelation, all glory be to God, because God created all things, and for God's pleasure, all things were created. There is no exception. All things.
God's pleasure.
Yes.
And all things. The controversy of that is like, how does God get pleasure out of children being harmed or whatever, right?
Yeah. Yes. So exactly. Of course, it's controversial. Yes. Well, because that child has a soul in it, and that soul wants to get that olive beating. But it also has this co-creation with everything else. You've got to have the good and the evil. That's what this is created for. We have created him as one of us to know good and evil. So how do you know good and evil if you don't go and experience it?
Yeah.
So, okay, we call it evil when somebody harms anybody, a child, especially, of course. But then there's animals and there's all kinds of things that are people just harm without any thought. But, that's the good and evil part. And then if you judge it, you call it good or bad, then that's where it ends, though. It's only good or bad to us, but it is all things created for God. And you have to understand it, as we continually say, from the eternal soul perspective. If you understand it from the eternal soul perspective,
Right.
and then you take the parable about the 10 virgins, why are they called virgins? And Mary being a virgin that gave birth to Christ, it's the same thing. Those virgins, well, we all experience those things in this life, but we are still considered virgins. Our soul is, because our soul is still pure. It's only experiencing. It's not doing bad things. It's not doing good things. It's just doing experience. And this is the only place that stuff can be done. It can't be done maybe anywhere else in the universe, but maybe it is. But this is a special place. It's where we have polarity. It's where we can have those bad things. And I'm not going to say that I don't feel the pain when I know of those things, when I hear of it, or if I see it, or
Right.
that I wouldn't give my life to stop it from happening, But I know that these things must come to pass. They must come to pass, because when you look at the eternity of it, you know that all it's doing is gaining souls, it's creating more of God, more magnificence, more experience of that. Whenever somebody ascends like Jesus did, God becomes more magnificent. And Jesus probably had many lifetimes of where he was, went through those horrible things or did those horrible things, as probably did I, my soul, because we live, when it says 400 years in Egypt in the Bible, it's a parable about a soul going into like Adam being put into the earth, and then like Cain killing Abel because Abel was connected to God, killing Abel, killing the connection to God. That's the original separation, which we call original sin. It's separation, it's not sin. Evil separates us from God. It's separation.
And
But
right, we have to remember that there's people who believe what they're doing is magnifying God.
yep.
Like 9/11, right? That's their way of, paying homage to their God.
Exactly. Yes.
That
Yes.
wasn't
And
evil.
getting
And,
72,
we
getting,
have a whole country of people who believe that was just like the ultimate evil act against our nation.
yeah.
But that's not what they were thinking when it happened.
No, they're believing that those ones that did it, they got 73 virgins for doing it. And I know I chuckle at that, and that's probably not good timing for chuckling, but it's really just a movie. It's all just a movie. It's all temporary. Where were we 100 years ago? Where will we be in 100 years from now? We won't be here. It won't matter. And that's the controversial stuff, isn't it? What are you saying? What are you saying? There's a special place in hell for you. Read the Bible, people. It tells you in the Bible. It tells you that. It tells you that all things, man's goings are of the Lord. So how can you know your own way? you know, God gives man his judgment. And it bugs me that it's always, it's always taken as men.
Yeah.
It's mankind. It's men and women. But it says it in there. It says it.
I
It's
think someone
all
called us out.
created
I think
pleasure.
last episode. I know we missed last week, but the episode before that, or 2 weeks ago, I think someone called us out about like that whole idea of the small book or the little book is open, but that that we're calling the majority of the Bible fluff or leaven.
Yeah.
It's pretty controversial too.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's not, again, that is something that people would push back on, right? That
well, yes.
you can't just pick parts of the Bible that you like and say, oh, I've interpreted it to mean this.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. But, in the plain text, it is there where, the part of saying that God created all things for God's pleasure negates a lot of the other stuff, and it does show that the other stuff is leaven and fluff. But again, everybody has to go within themselves. Yes. You have to seek, ask, and knock on the door within yourself in order to find, in order to get that understanding, to be able to pick up the Bible and see the little book in it. But it is a little book, and in Revelation it tells us that angel is holding out the little book. The little book is the unleavened Bible. That's why it's a little book. It's sweet to the tongue. I mean, it's sweet as honey to the tongue, but it's bitter to the belly. It's bitter to the belly because the ego does not want to hear what that is saying. It doesn't want to hear that God is creating all of this and it's all for God's pleasure. And we really don't have any say in it, but it says that.
I feel like the people that are coming back with the argument that, well, you can't just pick what you like and forget the rest, are saying that because they were told that by the pastor.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes.
That's not something that they learned on their own.
Nope.
I would say like in 98% of the cases, So I think we have
a good example
a
of
large
that.
population of church goers. And again, there's nothing wrong with going to church. It's a good thing.
It's
Being
wonderful.
in community is a good thing. Loving people and loving God and worshiping God, singing praise, and even tithing and giving back to the community. These are all just wonderful, and really humanity changing beliefs. But we could be doing so much greater than even God did, if we really listened for ourselves what God's calling us to do. If everybody really took their workplace and turned it into that would be their place of ministry.
Yep.
Be life. It would change corporate America. That's kind of the opening everything. Line of Heal Thyself is talking about that. Like if we really did that, then the world would be reflected differently. We wouldn't be seeing the stuff we see.
Yep. But it's supposed to be that way. And
it is.
As Celeste is saying, what he's pointing out is that the word has been made of non-effect by tradition, by people trying to interpret when they aren't connected to God and making up an interpretation and then getting people to understand it that way. It's like a great example is, how many times have you heard religious people in the Christian community say, the Bible says where two or more are gathered, we can change the world. Whatever we ask for, we can have. It doesn't say that. It says two or three specifically. But see how that has been changed and how many people have passed that on, but they haven't read in the Bible where it only says where two are gathered in my name, there I am. Where two or three are gathered, whatever they ask is given. Well, the two or three are God, our mind, and our heart, because the word is sown in our heart. And then when our mind realizes that God exists and that the word is written in our heart, then that's where the three are gathered. And that's where everything is given to us that we want, because God knows what we want before we ask, right?
Yeah.
That's biblical. And that's definitely not leaven. But see, that's the thing. It contradicts itself if you read the whole thing and you don't decipher it that way. And again, I just say, don't listen to me. Go within yourself. The kingdom is within. It says that in the Bible. And even people that aren't Bible people, if you're spiritual or you're seeking spiritual, you're starting to awaken, the answer is to go within yourself and look up and just say if you have just a seed of faith that God does exist, say, God, if you exist, show me. But you have to be open to it. You can't just say God doesn't exist, but God show me. You have to have that little bit of faith that there's a possibility. And then I guarantee you're going to find out. You will find out. And it can be a very tough retraining time to get off of the old ways. And as we were talking about in the beginning of this podcast of Celeste's situation and experiences of retraining, it's difficult. It's not easy. And I'm not going to say it's easy. I went through my retraining. It's just I got to do it for many years. Celeste has had to do it in, a decade or months. So it's a different situation.
And I feel like probably one of the biggest challenges that people are going to have in their own interpretation is that ability to see it through that lens of the eternal soul, because people aren't familiar with that term and even what it means. And so, when you have to interpret it through that lens of the eternal soul, that's really where you're going to, have the most enlightenment.
Yeah. And people don't even know much about soul, especially in religion. They don't really understand soul. They think that it's just God outside themselves, or it's Jesus, or it's the Buddha or Muhammad or something like that, but of course, Muhammad part is Allah, but they look to, the teachings of Muhammad. But as Giraffe's Heart said in the chat here, you have to be a truth seeker. That's a great point, because it's not necessarily then about having to believe that there's a God. It's wanting to know what the truth is, to know what the meaning of life is. Just ask what the meaning of life is, seek that understanding. And then that's where you'll find out that God does exist. Yeah. And it might come to you in a different way than it does to me. To me, God is all encompassing. God is me. God is speaking these words right now. Everything that I speak, everything that everybody speaks and does in my understanding is of God, is by God, is for God. Period. But that's a great point. Just be a truth seeker. That's all you got to do is, first of all, be a truth seeker. Seek truth.
And that gets confusing, right? Because people are confusing science and truth.
Yes, exactly. True.
Right?
Yes. Yeah. So you do, I guess.
Truth is another name of God, right? He is the truth. Yes. He is the way.
But also it's like we talk about the divine dichotomy, is that there's also other truth that is part of that truth, alternative truth. Yeah. So seeker of truth, but the meaning of life. I guess if you do the seeking of truth and seek the meaning of life, which I think, I see it in movies and all kinds of stuff of that question, seek the meaning of life. But yeah, you do have to come to the understanding that there is the creator within yourself that is creating everything within and without. And I'll just say real quick, as the Bible says, as Moses lifted up the serpent in the wilderness, the Son of Man must be lifted up. You must lift up the soul within yourself. You must lift yourself up to your soul, which your soul is you, your soul is actually in control of that. I know that kind of gets confusing, right? I'm kind of like, I know that's kind of baffling. I mean, I understand it, but it's hard to put into words. But the message is, first of all, anybody on the board, If you get a pop-up asking for donations or follow or anything like that, that's not what this is about. We're not about likes, shares, and subscribes and all that kind of stuff. We do not want donations. We give this. We give this. This is our gift. We are sharing the good news, the gospel as it was told to do. But it's the gospel that isn't made of non-effect. It's the gospel that is of truth. And of course, you can say that, that's my opinion, whatever.
Yeah.
I've proven it to myself. So nobody can tell me that it's not true.
Yeah, and one of the things we like to do, one of the things we've been told as part of our I don't know, I'm going to say manifest destiny, is to teach people how to find out their soul name and their spirit animal. I feel like that's a very distinct calling that that we can bring to others.
Yes. Yes. And I actually have another one of those scheduled.
Oh, awesome.
Yes.
Do tell.
The new member that I just met.
That's right. Yeah.
Yep. Coming back in a couple of weeks, or no, coming back in September, and we're gonna do it because we talked about it today.
That's so rad.
Somebody can't be around me anymore without hearing it.
Yeah, exactly. No, I mean, same, right? I was going to share with you that yesterday in that same meeting, which is really cool because, right, it's a recovery meeting, but we do it in VR. So people are showing up, and they're showing up as avatars in this virtual space. We're actually in an aquarium, right? And it's really cool because, right, if you're in an aquarium, right, you have sea creatures all around you, and right, that's God's love. That's God's perfect energy. So this gal was just really kind of broken about a recent conflict she had, and the way she described it, it was, um, very upsetting for her that her brother was calling her out on some behaviors, and that it caused her to really rethink her whole life. And she said she went into like a 3-hour fit of crying, and finally kind of snapped out of it and talked to her mom and got some wisdom and kind of regrouped. And the Holy Spirit just said, talk to her and ask her, about this relationship with her brother. And if it's like, is she overly invested in this relationship with her brother? Because, right, I know that feeling of like almost being raised by your big brothers because you didn't have a dad in the house. And so I just shared my story. I shared, briefly, like, when I hear you share about this, it sounds familiar to me because, growing up with an alcoholic father, I really put way too much. I gave my brother's opinions way too much validity over my life.
Mm.
And it just stopped her. Like, she just was like, get out of my head. She was like, wow. And so I said, so, in this process of you sharing about it, I talked about, I really believe that we can all heal ourselves. Healthy self means that you've healed thyself, and that you're reconciling the God inside you. And she loved it. She just was like, I really feel like that kind of struck a chord for her that just really kind of reverberated deeply.
Yes.
Just knowing that, right, she has this ability to love herself despite what anybody says. But, right, how do we come into agreement with that? Because all it is separation, right? That's what you're saying. That's what we've all come to learn that.
And there's the silver lining of your experiences lately, right?
Mm.
You get those little blessings like that along with the retraining times, and very cool. And so also that's a good point too. Giraffe Heart said, you be a truth seeker and then transcend the seeking into knowing.
Right.
That's
Know
really
that
awesome.
you know that you know what you know.
Yes. Know that you already know too. You already know it all. You do. It's just now a matter of realizing it and letting it unfold to you. So what Celeste is talking about with the meditation, it's something I learned a long time, years ago, that I've developed my own kind of like little thing with it to do. Introduce people to their eternal soul. And if you're a Bible person, you know that in the Bible it says that at the resurrection or at the rapture or whatever, I don't think it says rapture, but at the time of whatever, people are raised up, given a new body, and they're given a name written in stone. Well, we already have those names because everything is already done because there is no time or space to God. So in the meditations, having realized that, I have learned how to help people meet their eternal soul, which is actually them. So it's not like they're really meeting something, but they are. It's just becoming conscious of it and getting their eternal name. That's why we call Celeste Celeste. My eternal name is Marielle. And so I introduce that, and then I actually have people feel the eternity of the soul, to feel everything all at once, and to feel that everything is just one. It's all one. And then I introduce everybody to their spirit animal, which is of the evolution of the soul. And it's your carnal nature. It is the nature of why you react the way you react in fight and flight and natural reflexes. And when you know what that is, like that's why I call myself the lion, because mine is an African lion and it's a female because we're yin and yang. We all have that balance. And if you looked at me, you would see it in me. And again, I showed somebody that today and looked at me and said, "Oh yeah, I see it."
Mm-hmm.
And then Celeste is a white tiger. And, I like to say the white tiger part because they're really awesome. And it's a cool thing, but it's a tiger, so he's got the nature of a tiger, a female tiger. And then Giraffe Heart in here on the board calls herself Giraffe Heart. And she happens to be my wife. And she calls herself Giraffe Heart because her animal is a giraffe. And I know people with all different kinds of animals, and I've helped people see everything from raccoons to koala bears to gorillas
Rhinos.
to rhinos to white tigers to uh, monkeys, bears, all kinds of things. It's really awesome. And when a person, even a person that's doubting, when they get to that point and see it, and then they go look at themselves and then think about their nature, it's just mouth dropping. And it's like undeniable. And the Native Americans, they knew that in the way of the totem, which has the man, has a person, and then it has the mammal, and then it has the bird. And that's actually part of the evolution of the soul. It really is true. And I show people that. I do that in meditation just by really confidently guiding in a meditation. It only takes like 10 to 20 minutes at the longest, depending on how much information you want to go through. And we actually offer that to anybody that wants it. And I just always put it out there. You can contact us and we'll do it for nothing. It's a gift that we love to give. So I know that sounds crazy to a lot of people, but man, if you just sit down with that little seed of faith and just give it a try, you come out with, oh my God, it is undeniable.
Yeah.
I promise. And it's life changing. It changes your life.
It really does. It really does shift the perspective to the eternal soul. For me, I can think back to so many times where, like, in life-threatening moments, I survived because of these tiger-like instincts.
Exactly.
Able to just nimbly, deftly get out of harm's way.
Yep.
And also because God has another, need more out of me, right? He wanted more experience out of me.
Yes. Yeah.
So, right, he's not done with me yet is a very Christianese way of saying things, but it's true. He's not.
It is true.
And I don't want to make that sound like it's a slander to Christians, because it's not. It's just Christianese is like, right, another language, right?
Yes.
You only understand Christianese if you're a Christian, really.
Yeah.
Some of it's worked its way into, common.
Well, it is mainstream. Yeah. Because there's
we're
many...
a Christian nation. So a lot of these terms have come mainstream, but crossover, but
most people have heard of it and had the opportunity to, to accept or reject, So many people have heard about it, and there's like people doing debates of whether God exists, or is Christianity the truth, and things like that. I see that all over now. And there's people that don't believe in it, and there's people that do believe in it, and they are actually debating it, and which is a wonderful thing, because if you ask, you receive. Does God really exist? If you're an atheist and you ask that question, does God really exist? Well, look out, because that answer is probably coming. It's whether you really ask it truthfully, thoughtfully or not. Ask, you receive. Seek, you find. Knock, and the door opens. It is already open. It's just one way at the moment if you're separated.
Yeah,
God comes in the door.
And beyond the soul name too. When you understand these basic principles, then these other concepts don't become as difficult to comprehend, right? Like knowing everything, or being connected to everything all at once. When you know your soul name, then that becomes really true for you, because you've just had that experience of like entering the timelessness of God's creation.
Yep.
And that's really profound. And being able to remain connected to people who have gone before you, and maybe even, feeling a connection to people who have yet to be born, right?
Exactly.
It's amazing. It's like you're just connected to everything. You're truly part of the vine.
Yeah.
And it's it shouldn't be that hard a concept to grasp, that we are all connected, but
and everybody, atheists maybe not and stuff like that, but pretty much all religions believe in eternal life. It's just that some believe that you're either going to go to hell eternally or you're going to go to heaven eternally, because it's one and done. But that is absolutely untrue. It makes no sense. And that's the thing. When you do understand, like Celeste is talking about, you can pick up the Bible and you can see where it says that, you can see where it's showing you that it's not that you sin and that you go to hell if you don't receive Jesus. You'll see the opening. And then you'll watch movies like The Matrix or Lucy, or, even though they're really action and, a lot of gore and stuff like that, you'll see the spiritual meaning in it. It's really cool.
What I like to remind people about creative pursuits like cinema, right? When you're in the act of creation, right? You're like God. You're doing things greater than God, because in the beginning God created. So
exactly.
Right? We're called to do that. And these works aren't just random works that people are putting out there. These are works of God, by God, for God, and for God's pleasure.
Yeah. And to keep God, God to keep self alive, to keep it out there so that souls can't go too far, although souls do, but they have to. There is an experience of a soul that's, actually like thrown into fire, but it's not thrown into fire. It just is so far out of love that it can't exist because God is only love. And so it just returns back to the substance of God. But that soul as a person was never conscious, never really had any light, so to speak,
Was not woke.
Yeah. And that's just perfect because that balances out the polarity that we experience. It's just a part of the truth of the existence and the meaning of life.
Beautiful.
Yep. So I guess you probably need to get off. I think that was probably covering everything that we wanted to.
Yeah, I was putting out there for the people on the board that just a reminder that if you're seeing the support thing, you can ignore it. It's really the support we ask for is maybe calling in or just posting a question on the board. That's all we need. That's all we ask for.
Yeah, and we don't even need
this is
any
for
of that.
you, right? We do this for us, but right, because we are connected to everything all at once, right? It's for you. If you're here, right?
Exactly.
We're better for it because you're here.
Yep. There's no mistake that you're here.
And we feel you. We want to support your walk and help you try these tools out. If that feels like something you're ready to do, just hit us up next episode. And we're here on Sundays. We're shifting it a little bit earlier. If you didn't notice, we started a little closer to 7:45, but
we're gonna
plan to be on at 7:30 from now on instead of 8 p.m.
Yeah, a little bit earlier, shifting a little bit.
Well, great.
So
much love,
everybody. Thank you, and thank you, Celeste. And as we say, that we're coming on here to lift ourselves up, but we're sharing it with others because there's no mistake. And it's part of because we believe that we've been blessed with understanding and we're to share that. And it's just part of our passion. Yes. And so we love everyone. We wish that everyone will find that love and joy that we experience. And if you listen to the beginning of this, anybody that came in late, you'll hear that, we're still human, but we keep looking up and following the light, and we keep getting through the training.
Yes, sir.
And we have to have the retraining. We have to, and it can be a tough thing.
As hard as these aches and pains are to, kind of withstanding the spears and arrows, right?
Yes.
It's purposeful, right? God's got a perfect plan, and right, your lamp is filling with oil, and you'll be able to transcend these, earthly experiences and see God's purpose in it. So you're on track. If you're in the wrestling match, as I like to say, then you're on track.
Yes. And it's not called the sword of the Spirit for nothing. It's a double-edged sword, man, and that sucker cuts.
And so we love you all, and thanks for joining. And then just on a personal note, some of that Olympic wrestling, right, man?
Oh man,
dude, that one guy, the magician, twice in a row in the semifinal and the gold medal match. That was crazy.
You talking about Gable?
Yeah.
The big guy.
That was his name. Yeah. Where he pulled it off literally in the last 2 milliseconds. It was crazy.
13 seconds. He got 4 points, and it was 0.2 on the clock. Oh, I love wrestling. I used to wrestle.
So amazing.
That was amazing.
Standing up on my arms right now, just talking about it.
Oh yeah, and then David Taylor at the 86, he won it in the last seconds also.
So the whole idea of being on the wrestling mat, it's a great analogy for just spiritual life.
Yep. And it's you have to work hard. You know, it takes work and it takes training and
Yeah.
in order to be successful.
Yeah. Well,
But
that's
yeah,
where we're
thank you for
at.
bringing that up because that was, man, I was getting up
Yeah.
early in the morning to watch that stuff and it
I
was
know.
work.
I was thinking of you when I saw this. I was like, oh man.
I was jumping like the rest of everybody else was.
Yes.
No way.
Yeah.
That guy who was wrestling was a monster, man.
Oh, Iranian too. I mean, they were both so shocked. That was like the hardest part of it. It was like,
Yeah.
it's a cruelty of competition, right?
Yep. Oh yeah, somebody's got to lose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, all right, man.
Okay. Thank you. If we don't talk during the week, we'll meet here at 7:30 Pacific Standard Time next week on Sunday.
Beautiful.
All right. Have a good night and
Love you,
rest
brother.
well. I love you too.
Okay.
Good night, everybody.